Hi everyone, happy Friday. Glad to have you here. So today we're going to start looking at early civilizations in Africa and specifically the Empire of Mali. All right. So, like I said, happy Friday. I love Friday. I love the weekends. So I hope you guys have a great day and that you have a great weekend. But we are going to start looking at Africa and its early civilizations. So we're going to look specifically today at Mansa Musa. Mansa Musa is Musa the First. He was the 10th Mansa, or emperor, of the Mandan Kurufaba, or Mali Empire. So Mansa means emperor, and then his name was Musa the First. And his empire is located in Western Africa. And so he lived from 1280 to 1337 CE or AD, depending on what you're looking at. But his reign was 1312 to 1327 CE. Mansa Musa's empire consisted of parts of these present-day countries, Mali, Gambia, Guinea, Côte d'Ivoire, Senegal, Niger, and Mauritania. Mansa Musa was extremely wealthy, and he built this wealth from gold and salt mines, both of which back in the time were extremely valuable, right? There's this huge demand for spices and seasonings for food. Salt also obviously preserves food, which is very important, as there are not really refrigerators back then, so it's important. And the Mali Empire was strategically situated on trade routes throughout Africa. Again, because of that eastern location, they're easily accessed not only by people in Africa, but also by people outside of Africa. Um, Mansa Musa was also a devout Muslim. In 1324, he made the Hajj, or the pilgrimage to Mecca, which is one of the 5 pillars of Islam. And not everyone is able to do. So he is very, very devout Muslim. So he goes on his pilgrimage, and when he comes back, he brings an architect back with him to the Mali Empire. And this architect is named Ishaq el-Tejwan. And he builds several buildings for Mansa Musa, including a mosque that becomes one of the 3 mosques at the University of Timbuktu today. Mansa Musa also ordered him to create several libraries, and he really supported the education in the Quran in his empire. Under Mansa Musa's reign, the Malian Empire reached its greatest size, and you can still see his cultural legacy in Mali today. But what we're going to do today is look at a few historical documents, not historical, we're going to look at a few documents and try and answer the question, was Mansa Musa the richest person ever? There is a lot of debate that he was, right? So we're going to evaluate the evidence. Ask, is this document useful? What are its limitations? And what other information do we need? And today we're really going to focus on the limitations of a document. What information is valuable and what information is not valuable. So we're going to look at a blog post as our first document. And this is an excerpt from a blog post in the Huffington Post on October 17, 2012. It describes a study on the wealthiest people in world history by Brian Warner, the founder of Celebrity Net Worth, an online publication that investigates the lifestyles of the rich and famous. Okay, so here's our excerpt. And remember, we're trying to answer the question, was Mansa Musa the richest person ever? You've probably never heard of him, but Mansa Musa is the richest person ever. The 14th century emperor from West Africa was worth a staggering $400 billion after adjusting for inflation, as calculated by Celebrity Net Worth. To put that number into perspective, if that's even possible, net worth calculations mean Musa's fortune far outstrips that of the current world's richest man, Carlos Slim Helou, and family. According to the Encyclopedia Britannica, when Musa died sometime in the 1330s, he left behind an empire filled with palaces and mosques, some of which still stand today. But the emperor really turned historic heads for the over-the-top extravagances of his 1324 pilgrimage to Mecca. The trip, which he embarked upon during the 17th year of the monarch's glittering reign, was hosted by the leaders of both Mecca and Cairo, and apparently was so brilliant it, quote, almost put Africa's sun to shame, end quote. Musa's wealth was a result of his country's vast natural resources. The West African nation was responsible for more than half of the world's salt and gold supply, according to net worth. Of course, the entry also notes that the fortune was also fleeting. Just 2 generations later, his net worth was gone, wasted by invaders and infighting. So if we're looking at this source, in green, we have what would be reliable, right? According to the Encyclopedia Britannica. That's a source that's been vetted. It had to go through rigorous proofreading before it was published, and they get credited people to contribute to the encyclopedia. Now, even though the owner of Celebrity Net Worth wrote this, we're saying that that might make it unreliable because we don't know what they use, how rigorous their process is, what do they use to adjust for inflation. Is it more biased? It's just not as academic a source as the encyclopedia might be. Okay, so now we're going to do the same thing for an atlas, and it's the Catalan Atlas. It comes from 1375, and it's a medieval map from Spain drawn by Abraham Cresques. Cresques never visited Africa, but relied on the accounts of travelers and traders to make his map. So, take a look at the map here. It's massive, right? It's of Eastern Africa. And all the lines here that you see are the trade routes. And if you can tell, many of them converge in Mali. And on top of that, in the map, there's also some drawings, descriptions, smaller details of what's going on there. So one of these inscriptions says, "This black lord is called Musa Mali, lord of the black people of Mali. So abundant is the gold which is found in his country, that he is the richest and most noble king in all the land." So as you look at these, you're thinking, okay, what's reliable about this source? What can I trust from this map? And then you're also thinking, what might not be the most reliable? Why would this map not be the best source for information about Mansa Musa? And when we're looking at a map, it can be kind of difficult. So for this one, I took you guys back to the description, right? The most unreliable aspect of this map is that the map maker had never visited West Africa. He made a map of a place he'd never been to before in his life. But what makes it reliable and what makes us think specifically the inscriptions are more reliable is he used the accounts of travelers and traders who had been to this area, so people that were very familiar with it. So again, take it with a grain of salt. There is great information in here. However, it's all word of mouth. And our third document that we're going to look at is document C. Okay, and this is a modified excerpt from the Annals of Exton, and it's written by some monks in the middle of the 9th century. Al-Umari was an Arab historian from Damascus, Syria. He visited the city of Cairo in Egypt several years after Mansa Musa passed through there on his pilgrimage in 1324. He then wrote his account of Mansa Musa's visit as told to him by the people of Cairo. So this one we're not going to, I'm not going to show you the underlined parts, but I want you to think as I read and then back to the description what you think would be reliable and what would not be reliable. So what would you put into green and what would you not put into green? From the beginning of my coming to stay in Egypt, I heard talk of the arrival of this Sultan Musa on his pilgrimage, and found the people of Cairo eager to tell me what they had seen of the Africans' extravagant spending. I asked the Emir Abu, and he told me of the opulence, manly virtues, and piety of his sultan. Abu said, when I went out to meet him, Musa did me extreme honor and treated me with the greatest courtesy. He addressed me, however, only through an interpreter, despite his perfect ability to speak in the Arabic tongue. Then he sent to the royal treasury many loads of unworked native gold and other valuables. I tried to persuade him to go up to the citadel to meet the Sultan of Cairo, but he refused persistently, saying, I came for the pilgrimage and nothing else. I do not wish to mix anything else with my pilgrimage. Mansa Musa flooded Cairo with his gifts. He left no emir or holder of a royal office without the gift of a load of gold. The people of Cairo made incalculable profits out of him and his caravan in buying and selling and giving and taking. They traded away gold until they depressed its value in Egypt and caused its price to fall. This has been the state of affairs for about 12 years until this day, by reason of the large amount of gold which they brought into Egypt and spent there. Okay, so what would you put in green and what would you put in red? So that takes us back to our central historical question. Using these three documents, was Mansa Musa the richest person ever? What do you think? All right. So our announcements for today, you do have an exit ticket that's going to ask you what you think. Was Mansa Musa's, was he the richest person ever? You tell me. Okay, you also need to do the 4.1 checkpoint, which is due today as well. And then due Monday is your 4.3 quiz. But before you go, I'm going to show you where to access your 4.1 checkpoint and the best way to get the information you need for that. Alright guys, so when you log into class, it should hopefully look something like this. Um, and you can always see what's due over here on the side. So due today, North African Societies, that's clicking in, looking at the activities, seeing what the reading is. And then your graded assignment is the 4.1 lesson checkpoint. The best way to get there is if you come up, you see, okay, 4.1 lesson checkpoint is due. So I'm going to come over to 4 in class content. That's my regional civilizations and cultures. I'm going to launch that. I'm looking at 4.1. Okay, and we're specifically doing this checkpoint here, this North African Societies checkpoint. So if you click on the checkpoint, it's going to ask you to enter the word you received when you completed the African Civilizations Begin activity. Okay, so this is what your assignment is. What is this word? So you need to do the activity and then get the word. So if I go back, I'm going to go to the African Civilizations Begin activity. And that activity can be found in Early Peoples of Africa. And I click that. And then once it loads for me, I see the link here, right? So African Civilizations Begin. This is the activity that I need to do. So I'm going to click here, and it's going to launch a video for me. And there's a few videos that I need to watch, so I'll watch this one, then I'll click and I'll watch the next one, click and watch the next one, and then I'll watch the fourth video. At the end of this activity, this is where you'll get the word that you need to put in for the checkpoint. Okay, so don't forget exit ticket today, 4.1 checkpoint, which I just showed you how to do, and then Monday you have your 4.3 quiz. Okay, I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. If you have any questions, email me, call me, text me. I am more than happy to help out. Have a great day.